there are two, hijrah, there's zahir and there's batin. The word hijrah, there's an outer aspect to it and there's an inner aspect to it, like every other act of worship. Every act of worship in Islam, there's an outer aspect to it and there's an inner aspect to it. The Sharia is concerned about the outer aspect. When we say the Sharia, we mean in the dunya. In terms of ahkam, in terms of rulings of Islamic law, it's concerned about the outer aspect. Like Salah, the Sharia is concerned about Takbiratul Ihram, how you pronounced Allahu Akbar, what was your intention, how did you make ruku', how do you make sujood, what parts of your body touch the ground in sajda. That's what the Sharia is concerned about. The inner aspect is what? Is the meaning that is supposed to be attained. Salah comes from the word wasala, which means to arrive, to reach. Or sila, which means to connect. So the inner reality of prayer is a connection to Allah, or an arrival spiritually to Allah Azza wa Jalla, whereby the soul departs the dunya and arrives to Allah Azza wa Jalla. But the Sharia is concerned about takbir and taslim. Same thing with Hajj. Hajj means, the Arabic word Hajj linguistically means qasad, to strive to attain, to try to obtain something, to attempt to get something. That's the meaning of the word Hajj. So Hajj, the Sharia is concerned about the tawaf and maqam at Arafah and the likes. But the inner meaning is to strive to attain connection with Allah Azza wa Jalla and to depart the dunya. So, fasting, same thing. The outward aspect, we know. The inner aspect, the word sawm comes from the Arabic word sama, which means to abstain from. So the meaning of fasting is to abstain from anything other than Allah Azza wa Jalla. So, same thing with hijrah. The meaning of hijrah is to leave something. Hajara means to leave something, to give up something, to cut ties with something. So, for example, one of the ways of disciplining people according to Sharia is to not speak to them for a certain period of time. This, except parents. This is called hujran, or hajar. Zajar bil hajar, to repel somebody or to discipline them by silent treatment. Hajar means to stop, to leave something, to depart something. And there's a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said, there's a hadith that is collected by Ahmad and Ibn Mubarak and many of the muhaddithun, in which the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-mujahidu man jahada nafsak, wal-muhajiru man hajara ma naha Allahu anhu. That the mujahid is the person who struggles against himself, and the muhajir, the person who makes migration, is a person who departs from anything that Allah has prohibited. This hadith is referring to the inner reality of hijrah, not the external shari reality of hijrah. The external shari meaning of hijrah is to leave a place of kufr and to migrate to a place of Islam. This is the meaning of hijrah according to Sharia. So in the same way, somebody may fulfill the outer aspect of salah, but not the inner aspect of salah. We don't say that, okay, once you've reached Allah Azza wa Jalla, you don't need to pray Fajr. Right? At the time of Fajr, somebody wakes up and says, you know what? Right now, I'm so connected to Allah, I don't need prayer to connect. So you still have to pray. You still have to do the outward shari aspect. In the same way, if somebody said, you know what? I don't do anything Allah prohibited, therefore, if I'm living in Bilad al-Kufr, I can stay here, because the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Muhajiru man hajara ma naha Allahu anhu. We say no. You still have to do the outward aspect, because the outward aspect is what the Sharia is concerned about. So al-hijrah in the Sharia is to leave a place in which the Muslims cannot defend themselves or implement their religion fully or a place in which they have fitna with regard to their deen, is to leave that place and go to a place where the opposite happens, where there's no fitna in relation to the religion, where we can defend ourselves and we're not being attacked, and where we can implement the religion properly. This is hijrah that is wajib according to the Sharia. It was wajib in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and it remains wajib until Yawm al-Qiyamah. Muslims have to migrate from places in which there is fitna with relation to their deen, in which they cannot implement the religion properly, and in which they cannot defend themselves. So, this is what he's talking about, hijrah. فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Whoever's hijrah is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in his time, meaning where he went. Because the Muslims are following the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So, for Allah and for the Messenger. Now, in our time, after the Prophet ﷺ departed the life of this world, hijrah to the Prophet ﷺ is hijrah to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Whoever's hijrah is for Allah and to a place in which they can implement the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, then his hijrah is for that purpose. It's for Allah and for the Prophet ﷺ. وَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ لِلدُّنْيَا يُصِيبُهَا. And whoever's migration is for the dunya. The lam in this sentence, لِلدُّنْيا, this lam is called lam al-ta'leel in the Arabic language. It's a lam that indicates the purpose of an act. Why do you do X? Why? And this lam indicates the purpose. So, مَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ لِلدُّنْيَا. Whoever's hijrah is for the purpose of the dunya. يُصِيبُهَا. Asaba means to hit a target. If you're shooting with an arrow to hit the target, that is called asaba. So the Prophet ﷺ is saying, whoever's hijrah is for the dunya, meaning whoever made the dunya the target, the objective of his journey, of his hijrah, of his migration, فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى مَا هَجَرَ إِلَيْهِ. Then the purpose or what he gains from that journey is whatever he has intended. I mean, the dunya that he intended. When we say the dunya, the word dunya comes from the Arabic root dunum, which means closeness. Physically or closeness metaphorically. Closeness metaphorically, like this person is close to his mother. Doesn't mean side by side. Or physically, I mean this table is close to this chair. And so dunya comes from that root because this life is closer to the human being than the other life, than the akhirah. Dunya. In terms of, and dunya, there's an aspect of it that relates to time, and there's an aspect of it that relates to place. In terms of time, the dunya is everything that precedes the akhirah. Everything that comes before the akhirah, everything that comes before death is dunya. Everything that comes after death is akhirah. In terms of place, the scholars of kalam, they differ. What is dunya in terms of place? The scholars of theology. If you say theology as kalam, it's not a proper translation, but the scholars of kalam, they say that dunya, in terms of place, some of them say it relates to everything that's sublunary. Sublunary means anything under the moon. Meaning this world, this earth, everything that is under the sky that we see is dunya. And some of them say no, it's every created thing that is not in the akhirah. Everything that's created, that's not in what is called the akhirah, is dunya. So that includes all of the planets, what we know, what we don't know of them. Everything is called dunya. And then dunya also in the terminology of the religion also refers to the aspect of the dunya, the aspect of this world that distracts people from the remembrance of Allah. And this is the most common usage in the Quran and the Sunnah. So when the Prophet ﷺ said, for example, الدنيا ملعونة ملعون ما فيها إلا ذكر الله وما والاه وعالم ومتعلم. And the Prophet ﷺ said the entire dunya is cursed and everything in it is cursed except the remembrance of Allah, whatever supports the remembrance of Allah, and the teachers and the students. What is he talking about? He's not talking about dunya according to the mutakallimun. Because if it meant dunya according to the mutakallimun, then he's saying everything under the moon is cursed, and that's not true. So when the Prophet ﷺ mentions dunya in these contexts, what he's saying is everything in the dunya that distracts people from the akhirah, from the remembrance of Allah Azza wa Jal, then that's dunya. When the Prophet ﷺ said that dunya, إِنَّمَا أَخْشَى the thing I fear for you the most is that the dunya be open for you. What he's talking about is the things of the dunya that distracts you from Allah Azza wa Jal. The thing I fear for my ummah the most is that they be given that they be given wealth and power and status and all of that, because then they will fight for it and destroy themselves. So this dunya is used in that context. Dunya is everything in the created world that distracts us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the meaning of dunya in this hadith. فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ لِلدُّنْيَا يُصِيبُهَا. Whoever's hijrah is for something in the dunya, only for the sake of the dunya. But if it's for the sake of the akhirah, if somebody travels to marry for the sake of the akhirah, where the person is, they cannot find a spouse that is good. It's only wicked people. They can't find a spouse that prays. They can't find a spouse, and they migrate to a different place to find a spouse who does all of those things. That's not a bad, that's for the akhirah. So the thing that is being criticized here in the hadith is not traveling to marry. Traveling to marry is mubah. According to Sharia, the original ruling, according to Sharia, is mubah. Mubah means permissible. Somebody wants to travel for marrying is permissible. The hadith is not saying you can't do that. And then it might be mustahab. It might even be wajib. It's mustahab in the case that we mentioned. There are Muslims where we live, but they're all bad. In another place, there are Muslims, but some of them are good. Then it's mustahab. It's recommended by Sharia to travel from that place to the other place to get married. It might be wajib if you're living in a place where only kuffar exist and you want to get married. Right? Kuffar who do not fulfill the conditions of marriage, according to the Shafi'i school. It becomes wajib. If you don't marry, you'll commit sin. But if you travel and marry, you would save yourself from sin. Then that becomes wajib. So the hadith is not saying don't travel to get married. The hadith is criticizing traveling for marriage inwardly. That's your objective, but outwardly you're pretending that you're doing it for Allah and the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Riyad, that's what the Prophet is criticizing. So he said, "Man kana," just on a separate note, or a related note, just one interesting thing about the words dunya and akhirah. The words both dunya and akhirah are adjectives in the Arabic language. They're both adjectives, but in the Arabic language, they're not used as adjectives. It's an interesting thing. There are some words where the adjective becomes so common that they're used as nouns, but the usage as nouns becomes so common that the original state or the adjectorial state just completely gets lost. Nobody thinks about it as an adjective. What's interesting about this is that dunya and akhirah became like those words. And even the linguists in the Arabic language, the Arabic linguists will say that they are used as nouns to the point where the wasfiyah, the adjectorial meaning is completely gone. What's interesting about it is that language is what informs, or what language forms the consciousness of a person. Wittgenstein says the limit of my word is the limit of my world. There's a similar statement in Arabic that نُطْقُهُ يَدُلُّ عَلَى نِطَاقِهِ, that his nutq, his language, is an indication of his nitaq, of his limits. Which is like what Wittgenstein said, the limits of my word is the limits of my work. In other words, what makes me who I am because of my internal thought process happens in language. Right? That's how we think. Human beings think with language. So if we don't know the words that will give us certain thought, then we will not have those thoughts. If we don't have the words to access that level of thinking. So the consciousness of a human being is formed by his language. The fact that we think about dunya and akhirah as nouns, as places, not as descriptions, takes away that descriptive element from the consciousness of a human being. Think about this. If I tell you, this is here, and that is there. Right? We are here now. This is our place. Dunya is this place. Akhirah is that place. Right? It differs from if someone tells us, dunya is our first place. Akhirah is our next place or our last place. If I tell you Malaysia is here, America is there. Oh, this is here and that's there. So you think about it as separate places. But if I tell you Malaysia is your place for now, America is your last place. In the consciousness, the way we think about it becomes different. Because you're thinking about here is for now, it's just temporary. You're going to treat it with a level of temporariness. And you'll be preparing for the other place. If somebody said, if in your mind you're moving out in a year, this is why students don't go to their dorms and build it up with tiles and they don't make mansions. Because I'm here for now, it's my temporary place. That description, temporary, changes completely how they think about it, how they act in it, and how they behave towards another place. So, it's just interesting how these two words, that are probably two of the most important words in the consciousness of a human being, are thought of, used in the language as nouns, not as adjectives, when in reality they are adjectives, not nouns. Just interesting. So, coming back to the hadith. Or for a woman to get married. So we said what is being criticized in the hadith is not traveling for dunya or traveling for marriage. It is doing so. While doing so in reality, that's what's in your heart, but outwardly you pretend it is for Allah and the Prophet ﷺ. That's what is being criticized. Riya or pretense. This is what is being criticized. So this hadith, according to the ulama, is an important hadith as it relates to the showing the blameworthiness of riya. Riya means to do something for other than Allah, or to do something for show. The word riya, we can think about the word riya in two ways. Riya comes from the Arabic root ra'a, which means to see. So we can think about riya in two ways. One is to do something in order to be seen. So riya'an linnas, hoping to be seen by people, noticed by people. We're doing it for them. To gain something. When they see us, we gain something. Either we gain their respect, or we gain something of their dunya. They give us money, or they give us a position, or something. Or it can be thought about as seeing the creation as opposed to the creator. So the word seeing here, why is riya called riya? The ulama differ. Either because we do it to be seen, or we do it seeing other than Allah Azza wa Jalla. In the first meaning, riya becomes a specific thing. It becomes a branch of doing something for other than Allah Azza wa Jalla. A type of doing something for other than Allah. So for example, if somebody does something for money, it's not called riya in the first meaning. Is something for the is doing something for the dunya. If we do it to be seen by others, then it's called riya. In the second meaning, riya becomes any form of acting for other than Allah Azza wa Jalla. Because what we're seeing in the second meaning is like the English statement, eyes on the prize. Riya, you keep your sight, your eyes on the prize being other than Allah Azza wa Jalla. So anything in the dunya that we do, an act of ibadah for anything other than Allah, in the second meaning is called riya. Keep this in mind, because as we go on, we'll bounce back and forth between these two meanings. So the hadith is a hadith that warns against riya, against doing things for other than Allah Azza wa Jalla. And when we say doing things for other than Allah Azza wa Jalla, we're talking about acts of ibadah, not ordinary acts. Riya is doing an act of ibadah, an act of qurba, an act that is supposed to be in order to gain closeness to Allah Azza wa Jalla, but we do that for other than Allah Azza wa Jalla. It's not talking about other acts. Mundane acts, riya don't apply to them. Somebody plays basketball. What do you guys play here? Badminton, soccer. And they do that to show off, to show their skills, and I'm the best in the world. We're not talking about riya. That's not riya. Riya is doing an act of ibadah. Why? Because here is where it's supposed to be done lillah, only for Allah, but now we're doing it for other than Allah. So, riya. We'll just talk a bit about riya before continuing the hadith. Why? Because the hadith is an important hadith that speaks against riya. So we need to understand riya. Riya, there are three types in terms of when the riya occurs. We can separate riya into three categories in terms of when did the intention change. So one can be that the act initially started out for other than Allah. So initially the reason, the factor that motivated us, that caused us to even do the act to begin with, was something that is for other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Something in the dunya. Those kind of actions might be valid according to Sharia, but there are no rewards for them. If somebody performs salah, initially the reason they pray is for other than Allah, there is no reward for that salah. Or zakah, or hajj, or fasting, there is no reward at all. It has to be done for Allah. Or it can be an act where it started out sincerely for Allah. In the process, the intention changed. This is number two, second category. Started out sincere. Somebody got up to pray at night, there's nobody there, right? They're by themselves, gets up, makes wudu, start praying, 1 rak'ah, 2 rak'ah, third rak'ah, somebody get up, and now they can be noticed. So halfway of the prayer now, you start to raise your voice so that somebody else can hear. You make a long ruku, sujood, so that by the time they come out of the bathroom, they catch you and such that. Something like that. So you start lillah, change halfway. According to Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah ta'ala, and others, this type is also rewarded by Allah Azza wa Jal, and the riya does not affect it. If it's the type that continues. Meaning, if it's an act that the entire act. When can a salah be called salah? At what point is a salah a salah? Its completion. Right? Did the Prophet ﷺ define salah as? The first is, it begins with a takbir and it ends with a taslim. That's a definition. So you have takbir and everything else. There's no taslim, there's no salah. So the act is constituted by several parts, but all the parts must be present before we can label that thing with this word. Before this word salah applies, every element must be there. It's like if you see a car without the back part, we don't call it a car. I mean, we say the word car just to identify, but in reality, it's not a car. It's half of a car. It's 2/3 of a car. It's not a car. So same thing with the prayer. So according to Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah, and others, if the act is of that type, where the entire thing must be done before the act can be completed, if it's that type of act, then the riyah in between would not affect the validity or the rewards. Because the act started out for Allah Azza wa Jalla, you were still in that act. Somebody says, I intend to pray for Allah. That's your intention at the Takbiratul Ihram. I intend to pray for Allah. It's registered as a salah for Allah. But it only becomes a salah when you give the taslim. So because you already intended to pray for Allah, the prayer could only be completed at the end. The intention was related to what? A prayer. So the intention counted. But you only get it once you've completed the act. And when is the act completed? With the taslim. So the riyah doesn't affect the prayer. Why? Because it was registered as a prayer for Allah. The in-between. Yes, yes. So if the riyah comes in between, and it's a type that the act is only completed by the end, then riyah in between those acts would not affect the validity or the rewards, according to Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal and others. According to Imam al-Ghazali and others, you get it by percentage. So if 50% lillah, then 50%. 50% lil-dunya, then 50% lil-dunya. So, but if it's an act where it can be called whatever you intended by little pieces of it, then the riyah affects the pieces in which it was present, even according to Imam Ahmad. For example, qira'ah, recitation of the Quran. When is qira'ah called qira'ah? Because I intend to recite Quran for Allah Azza wa Jalla. As long as I pronounce the words of the Quran loud enough to hear myself, that is called qira'ah. So alif is qira'ah, lam is qira'ah, mim is qira'ah. Another thing that proves this is the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whoever recites a letter of the Quran gets 10 rewards. And then the Prophet says, I don't mean alif lam mim is 10. I mean alif 10, lam 10, mim 10. So if somebody recites alif for Allah, lam riyah, mim for Allah, then he gets, the first one is valid, the second one is invalid, the third one is valid. As according to all of the ulama, including Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. The third category is if the act is completed for Allah. The act, we intend to do it for Allah Azza wa Jalla. Complete it for Allah Azza wa Jalla. After the fact, you were done. Afterwards, somebody came, they start to praise you, you feel happy. And now you start to enjoy the praise that you're getting. That will motivate you to do another one for the praise. Does that affect the reward or the validity? Validity, no, right? But the reward, does it affect the reward of the act? So somebody gives sadaqah. Right? You saw somebody in the page, you bought lunch for them, you sat with them, had a conversation with them, you took them to a shop, you buy new clothes for them, all of that. And it's for yourself, only you there, nobody else knows. You're happy about it, you go home, you're trying not to tell them because you want it to only be for Allah. It's on your mind, you feel so proud about it, you tell somebody. That person starts to praise you. Make a Facebook post about what my daughter did. All the big things, Twitter, start to blow up, you get very excited. Does that affect the act? According to Imam al-Ghazali, it does. According to Imam al-Ghazali, it does. According to majority of the ulama, it does not. Because it was done. It was done for the sake of Allah. If you died before somebody praised you, you died as an act, doing an act for Allah Azza wa Jal. And Imam Ibn Hajar al-Haytami rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, what proves that is not affected is the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, though it's a weak hadith, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, those kinds of responses to your good deeds is ajilu bushra al-mu'min. It's Allah Azza wa Jal giving the believer a sign in the dunya that his act was accepted by Allah Azza wa Jal. So people praising you and making you feel good about it, which will encourage you to do more, is not a sign that you've become insincere, but it's a sign that Allah has accepted your act. And He wants you to know that He has accepted your act.
It's like a motivation.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like a gift Allah gave you this. So according to majority of the ulama, if the riya occurs after, it comes out, you feel happy about the things of the dunya that you got for a good act. After you're done, you've completely finished it for Allah Azza wa Jal, that does not affect the validity of the act.
For here, you don't get reward, but you get sin
For
if you are intentionally doing the riya.
if you're intentionally doing it, yeah, you get a sin. Yeah. Because you're going against the command of Allah. وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ حُنَفَاءَ. They were not commanded except to worship Allah mukhlisin, completely, sincerely. So because we're doing it for other than Allah Azza wa Jal, we're doing something that is prohibited. Al-amru bi-shay' nahyu an diddihi. In the Usul al-Fiqh of the Shafi'i school, we say the command for something specific is a prohibition against everything opposite to it. The command to do X is a prohibition from doing the opposite of X. So if the Quran says, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ, they were not commanded except to worship Allah sincerely, then that amr, that command is a prohibition of worshiping Allah insincerely. So, yeah, so that's riya. Then, there's a little bit of differences of opinion again on if the act is mixed. If the act is mixed between riya and other than the riya, anyway, we'll skip that, but because it gets technical, and there's a lot of differences among the ulama on that. The hadith is also, or a separate issue that is discussed, is tashriq fil niyyah. Tashriq, the word shirk, tashriq and shirk come from the same word. Tashriq means to share. Shirk, sharaka in the Arabic language means to share. That's why in Islamic finance, a sharika is a company in which people have shares in the ownership. So, tashriq is to cause something to be shared. So, tashriqu fil niyyah, the ulama differ, or there are different categories of tashriq fil niyyah. Tashriq fil niyyah, we can say it is separated into two categories. One category is where we do an act for Allah and other than Allah Azza wa Jal in a way that cannot be done. That act is completely invalid. For example, if somebody does a sacrifice of an animal, for Allah and for other than Allah, to Allah and to other than Allah, that share, that tashriq makes the act invalid. But if there are objectives that are achieved whether I intended or not, there are things that are going to happen naturally with certain acts of worship. If I intend those things specifically, do they affect the validity of the act or not? For example, if I fast the way I'm supposed to, I observe Ramadan the way I'm supposed to, there are certain health benefits that I get. I might lose weight. if we don't eat heavily at night. This natural. If I'm in a hot country, if I make wudu with cold water, I cool down. That happens whether I intended or not. There are other examples that the fuqaha would give. For example, I owe money and the date came for me to pay, I'm not paying. The guy that I owe came to the masjid, I saw him. If I jump up and pray salah now, you pray a long rak'ah and outwait him, you'll probably get tired and leave me alone. If I pray long, that result will happen whether intended or not. These types of things. Or another example they give is if you're in, with similar example, but this time they go the opposite route. You see the guy who you owe, who owes you money in the haram in Makkah. The guy sees you. The guy gets it immediately, he ran to the makkah, he starts making tawaf. So now you had no intention of making tawaf. You just came to get your money. Now can you go and make the tawaf again and just be behind the guy? So these are things that are going to happen whether you intend them or not. So here, the ulama differ whereby they say, some of them say it will not affect the validity. As long as once you start, you're doing it in your mind for Allah and you know this is a side benefit. I'm not doing it solely for this purpose. Some say, like Imam al-Ghazali, which is ghalib, and which of the intention is dominant, which means which is more than 50%, as opposed to which is less than 50%. Because of the Arabic word ghalaba. Ghalaba is which is more dominant. So if the dunyawi one is more dominant, then the reward, you get no reward. And it may affect the validity, according to some of the ulama. If it's less, then you get the rewards to the extent of your intention for Allah, but the act is still valid. And some of them say it's valid, no matter what. But everybody agrees that it has to be tashriq. Tashriq must be shared. There's a whole difference of opinion about whether it's shared or not. But if the intention is only for the purpose of the dunya, and then you just have for the sake of Allah at the back of your mind, then that wouldn't work. If it's for the sake of Allah, there's other benefits just at the back of the mind, then that's okay. This is why sometimes I get a bit worried when before Ramadan comes, a lot of people post things and videos about the health benefits of Ramadan. Because sometimes I'm afraid, what if some people get so caught up about the health benefits that when they actually start to fast, they're doing it for that, and this is Ramadan. The idea that I'm doing this for Allah is just a secondary something. Right? So these type of things we have to be careful. But like in the case of the tawaf and stuff in the books of fiqh, these rulings are detailed. If it becomes so caught up, if somebody becomes so caught up in the secondary purpose that they forget the ibadah, that they're actually doing this for ibadah, then the act becomes invalid. Right? In the Shafi'i school, if you become so caught up with the secondary purpose that you forget the ibadah aspect, then the act becomes invalid. Let's say, for example, somebody has ink stain on their hands. They're making wudu. While you're washing your hands in wudu, you notice the stain, and then you start to rub it, and it's not going. You start, and then you get soap, and then to the point if somebody comes to you and say, "What are you doing?" You don't say, "I'm making wudu." That idea that I'm making wudu is completely disappeared. Then somebody say, "What are you doing?" I'm trying to get this stain out. If that becomes the only purpose, then the wudu now is broken. You need to make a fresh intention and continue the wudu with a refreshed intention. Same thing with the tawaf. If you start, okay, the guy's making tawaf, okay, I intend to make tawaf for the sake of Allah, and you still behind it. But if you're so focused on him, he moves right, he moves left, that somebody's saying, "What are you doing?" It's like, "I'm following this guy." If that's the only thing, it becomes so dominant that that's the only thing in your mind, I'm following any step. If somebody makes one step in the tawaf, just one step with an intention that's completely for other than tawaf, then the tawaf, you have to backtrack and take it again. You don't have to start over. But that one step you have to make up for it. But if you always know, just generally, not all the time you're saying, "I intend tawaf lillah," I know. Generally, you're making tawaf, that's in your mind. and a secondary purpose comes up. So for example, you're making tawaf with somebody you know, the person's about to stumble, and you like quick step to like catch them, but in your mind you're still making tawaf, but you're going there, but if the only idea is I'm making these steps so that I can reach that person, then that becomes something problematic. إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى فمن كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله ومن كانت هجرته للدنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. So whoever's hijrah is for a woman or for the dunya, then their hijrah is for whatever they need the intention. There's one thing to notice about the wordings of the hadith is when the Prophet ﷺ spoke about Allah and the Messenger. فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. He repeated Allah and the Prophet ﷺ. But when he spoke about the dunya, يُصِيبُهَا أَوْ امْرَأَةٍ يَنْكِحُهَا, he didn't repeat those two. He didn't say, so their hijrah is for the dunya and for the woman. He said, فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى مَا هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِ. Why? Because it's mustahab in the Sharia to not say lowly things that there's no purpose for. If there's no purpose to speak about dunya and detail things about the dunya, then it's mustahab not to speak about it. But it's mustahab to say Allah and the Prophet ﷺ. So this is why he repeated. Why? Number one, listening to the word Allah gets a reward. So now the people listening to that gets a second chance to hear the word Allah. The speaker gets a second chance to say the word Allah. And so they get rewarded just by hearing it. The person who speaks gets rewarded by saying it. And then there are secrets that happens to the heart by hearing, and there are spiritual benefits that a person gains, the heart gains by hearing the word Allah. And there's benefits that a place gets. There's barakah that descends on a place in which the name of Allah Azza wa Jal is mentioned. This is why for every gathering it's recommended that we end our gathering by mentioning the name of Allah Azza wa Jal. There are certain specific du'as that are there, but in general the idea is to mention the name of Allah, so that the gathering was not a gathering in which the name of Allah is not mentioned. And that the place was not a place in which we gathered, in which the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not mentioned. So repeating the names of Allah Azza wa Jal is something that is mustahab. So every opportunity that comes to just say the name of Allah Azza wa Jal. When we say every opportunity, we mean if it's not haram, it's not makruh, then it's recommended to be said. It's not haram and makruh, and the details of that is, again, in the books of fiqh. For example, in the toilet stuff. So in those cases, no. But any other opportunities when he has to mention the name of Allah Azza wa Jal, take it. The world will not end. There's a weak hadith. The world will not end until there is no one left here to say Allah, Allah. Some of the ulama say that the Allah, Allah in that statement is with a fatha, and something is missing, meaning ittaqillah, ittaqillah. Some say that just means the name of Allah. The world will not end until there is no one left to say. There is no one left to say the word or the name Allah. وَاذْكُرِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ وَتَبَتَّلْ فِيهِ تَبْتِيلًا. Mention the name of your Lord. Some say that means Salah specifically. Some say it means the name of your Lord. Allah. Say the word Allah. So فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله. ومن كانت هجرته للدنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. And then he said, Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, رواه إماما المحدثين. This hadith was reported by the two imams of the muhaddithin, al-Bukhari and Muslim. The Imam al-Bukhari and the Imam Muslim. Not to mention the name of both, let me just read it from the text itself. So he said, رواه إمامات المحدثين أبو عبد الله محمد بن إسماعيل ابن إبراهيم ابن المغيرة ابن بردزبة البخاري وأبو الحسين مسلم بن الحجاج مسلم القشيري النيسابوري في صحيحيهما اللذين هما أصح الكتب المصنفة. So it was reported by Imam al-Bukhari and Imam Muslim in their Sahih. The two books are called the Sahihain. They're not titled. Neither is titled Sahih al-Bukhari or Sahih Muslim. They are called Sahih al-Imam al-Bukhari and Sahih al-Imam Muslim. These are not the titles of the work. And then Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah said that both, they are the two most authentic. They are the two most Sahih. And the word authentic is not a good translation for the word Sahih. That's a very horrible translation for the word Sahih. They're the two most asah. We mentioned what Sahih is according to the Muhaddithun. So these two books are the two books that most fulfill the conditions of a Sahih Hadith ever to be written. And Imam al-Nawawi mentioned al-Bukhari before Muslim. Sahih al-Bukhari before Muslim. It's possible that he did it because al-Bukhari was before al-Imam Muslim. And that he was the teacher of al-Imam Muslim. At least for a few years at the end of his life. He was a teacher of Imam Muslim. Or it's also possible that it relates to the end sentence, which they are the two most Sahih books. But he mentioned al-Bukhari before al-Imam Muslim to indicate that Sahih al-Bukhari is prior in terms of Sahih Hadith than al-Imam, than the Sahih of al-Imam Muslim. And this is a difference of opinion among the ulama, where majority of the ulama of hadith, like the overwhelming majority of the ulama of hadith say that Sahih al-Bukhari is more sahih than Sahih Muslim. In the next session we'll start with the second hadith inshaAllah ta'ala. هذا وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. جزا الله عنا سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ودينه وغيره وآخر دعوانا